believes that there's a version of themselves out there that achieves every single element of life that they want. The perfect wife, the perfect family, the amount of money they want to earn, the life they want to live, has every single element. Yeah, you agree? Everyone in here agrees? Okay, cool. If you know that there's a version of you that achieves every single thing that you want, then you know that in this life, you can achieve every single thing you want. Because what I don't want you to do, what I don't want everyone in here to be doing, is sacrificing one thing for another. Because who in here wants to earn money but have no time to spend with their friends, their family, or the people they love? Yeah, I'm guessing no one in here. Who here wants to earn loads of money but not actually be able to travel anywhere, stay in their room and do nothing with their life? Yeah, no, I'm guessing no one. And who in here wants to not earn much money but have all the time to spend with their family? No, no one wants to do that either, because then how can you treat your family? So what I want to show you today, and I have a whiteboard, but I don't know what I'm going to write on it, is how you can genuinely go and start doing that. Because in the last year, I've traveled to maybe 10 plus countries. I've earned over $250,000 more, and that's like scaled over the months over time. And I've put myself in a position when I can go home, I can not only spend my time with my family, I can also treat them to the things whilst I'm spending time with them, right? And the easiest thing to do is always sacrifice one thing for another. And I want you guys to step into the version of yourself that doesn't just achieve one small part of life that they want, doesn't just get to $1 million a month, 15K a month, 30K a month, actually achieves every area of life that they want by becoming the best version of themselves. And this is the exact thing. I would draw it, but I can't. It took me from someone that was relatively low self-belief, didn't really even believe that they could live in another country or had the confidence to leave their home, didn't really have the belief to do anything other than work a 9 to 5. If you think about it, literally last year in December, I was going into a new role within my 9 to 5, earning 30-something K per year, and was in a position where I remember this vividly. I looked into my phone and just started crying, because I was in a position in life where I had taken actions, I'd moved forward, I had like family, friends, everyone telling me that I was in a really great position, I was earning loads, I had people I was managing at this job, but I knew I wasn't actually living up to what I could achieve, right? And probably if you're in here, you already have seen this, but everyone has this 1.0 version of themselves and this 2.0 version of themselves. But what people don't think about, and they don't realize why this is so important, is what do you have to do before you go to sleep? No answer, good chat, guys. Yeah, you have to pretend to be asleep, right? You can't fall asleep until you start pretending to be asleep. And you're not going to achieve the level of success as this future version of you does until you start pretending to be that version. And I see loads of you thinking of this as a goal and not as an identity. Thinking of this as a version and not an identity. If you look at the recent podcast with Tony Robbins and Alex Hormozi is living a life still in pain because he built the business based on pain, right? He built the business based on sacrifice, pain. And now when he's achieved that level of success, his self-beliefs, like basically a condition to correlate pain and sacrifice with success. So for him to continue achieving more levels of success, he needs to continue to sacrifice, continue to be in pain to achieve that level. So the identity that you operate from now and the identity that you achieve the level of success that you want from will be the identity that you have when you achieve that level of success. Because what you want to do is start falling asleep now, like figuratively, as that person you want to become. And basically the reason why you want to do this is there's like 3 core different types of frequencies. You can look at it like this. You have the frequency like this, you have a frequency like this, and you have a frequency like that, right? This is a frequency of really high level of intense emotion, right? And if you think about like there's a line between each of these, oh, that's fucking basically a line anyway, but this is a frequency of really high level intensity of emotion, right? And what it does, it means you go from like peaks to highs to like bottoms to highs consistently. And this is the version of you that doesn't necessarily fully believe in themselves, right? This is the version of you that has this 2.0 here, but also majorly has this 1.0. And you're always going to have some sort of element of this 1.0, right? But you want to get as close to here as possible. Because in this one, you have days where you are really stepped out. You're really that 1.0. You haven't focused on your mindset enough. You haven't focused on your actions enough, right? And you're in this position where one day you're feeling amazing because the results that you've got or something have aligned you with this 2.0. Because most of the time when you're in this frequency, you're allowing external factors to align you with the version you are. You do 1,000 pounds in a day. Oh, I'm the 2.0. I'm at this high level here, right? Oh, I didn't earn much money today. I'm this 1.0. And then you get the other version of you down here that doesn't even step out of 1.0 or 2.0, basically maintains, doesn't actually take enough action in their life to look at their mindset to really understand the difference. And this is just as risky as this one. Yeah, your life might not feel as up and down. And what you often find is when you start looking at the 2.0 version of yourself, you get a bit of this because now you know the difference and now you can feel the difference. So you get a bit of that push and pull in the early days because most of you step away from just a flat line of like basically being this 1.0 and not really taking action. And then there's another version of you that kind of goes like this. Yeah, you might have ups and downs. That's normal. You're never going to have it perfect. But it's a relatively straight line because you act so much in this version of yourself that even if you earn or you lose £10,000 in a day, you've still done every single element to be this version of yourself. So you can stay as much towards that 2.0 even on a bad day. You might have a small dip, but you don't have a dip like this, right? Is this making sense? Okay, cool. Let me just start live. Okay. I wish I had, I can't remember all of the ones on this thing, but I'm going to do my best, right? Because there's basically, it looks like, this is another thing to do with frequency, right? It looks like this triangle, like this. And at the top, you have basically the highest version of yourself. I'm going to put highest version. And at the bottom is like this lowest version of yourself. And in between all of these things is different things. So for example, you might have like anger down here, right? A low frequency emotion, right? Ego, or however you want to say ego. And then up here, you could have, for example, love, right? And then another thing you could have is like self-acceptance, yeah? And what I see, and there's loads of different things that go on this line, I could show you this graph. And what I see loads of you guys kind of trying to associate is you want stuff that motivates you, but then you allow that stuff that motivates you to put yourself on a low frequency. Like we've even seen this between me and you, right, Ricky? And it's been one of the things that's moved you forward majorly in terms of how good you are actually closing people, for example. Because like when you close over ego, there's going to be so many things that stops you from getting that close because your ego is getting in the way. Because ego is actually a super low frequency. So is anger. Like you can be really annoyed about where your life is at, really angry where your life is at, but that's a low frequency, right? And what that's going to do is bring you down and not up. Because as soon as you start stepping into the version of yourself that accepts where they are, not in terms of accepts lack of action, accepts lack of change, but accepts who they are, it then gives you a really good spot to then go and do more and more and more. And like when you are with someone and someone you know, like, or maybe a friend or family, or think about it this way. When you go to a party where you're someone that knows loads of people, how do you feel? Yeah? Speak a bit louder, guys. Let's get some fucking self-acceptance in here. Yeah, you feel good? Yeah? What else do you say? Yeah, and when you go to a party where it's full of people you've never met before and you're the only person going in, how do you feel? Yeah, invisible, apprehensive, uncomfortable, exactly that. And that's how you go into life when you don't have this self-acceptance, when you're on this low frequency, right? You start looking at opportunities in an apprehensive way. When you have self-acceptance, you look at opportunities in a more open way. Instead of being like, oh, what about that opportunity, what is going to go wrong? You look at it in a more like open way. You mentioned invisible, right? When you start accepting yourself in your life, you become more aware of opportunities because you feel less invisible to life because you accept the position you're in. You don't feel so negative about all the things that are happening because you've accepted it, right? So then you now actually get more opportunities in your life, not because there's more opportunities there, because you become more aware of these opportunities. So the lower level frequency you're on, the less that will basically happen in your life. And like, there's a much better graph to explain this, and I can put that up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. But you want to basically make sure that you're holding yourself to a high standard and a high frequency. And the way you do this is just by understanding. Like, you can simply choose. And it sounds really weird, but you can generally choose whatever frequency you're on at any point. Because if you think about this, like if you've got anger, the reason why you can choose to not be angry is you can look at in what way you're expressing anger, right? In what way am I holding a mentality of anger, of aggression, right? And you can already start to strip that away from the second you see that. And by stripping that away from the second you see that, you already start to step up from it. And you see this a major thing, like if any of you guys are in relationships whilst building the business, these lower level frequencies will be causing issues in your relationship. And you need to step out those lower level frequencies so you can have a solid relationship whilst building the business. It's a really important thing. Otherwise, like everything will go down in one area of life whilst going up in another area. And that in the long term isn't good for any man, for any person. It's not even good for business. Is this following along still? Is this useful? Yeah? Cool. Okay. So how to actually identify what the 1.0 and what the 2.0 looks like. And before I actually go into that, I'm going to set you some steps that I want you to do. Like the first thing I want everyone in here to be doing is journaling. Journaling took me from a 10K mindset to a 50K mindset. Well, now 250K mindset is now where we're going, right, Ricky? So if you want to be doing something like 250K a month, for example, you cannot get there without changing the way that you look at life. It is not possible, because if you're, and that's the belief I hold, I guess, then that belief means that I have to journal to change. But if you've been grown up in a position where 250K a month is something that feels unachievable, which I know for sure it was for me, like that no one in my area, like Felix is from my area, like no one talks about 250K a month, then you need to step out of that, and that requires constant thought and constant rework of your mind. So journaling is like the biggest thing for that. Every time I go to bed at night, I literally lie on my belly like a little girl. I have my feet up in the air, I have my journal out, and I write about my day and all these sort of different things. I do that every single day and I don't miss it. So the first thing you need to do is journal. The second thing you need to do is you need to write your 1.0 and 2.0 self. And I'll go into how to do that in a bit more detail. But the reason why you want to do this is you want to understand where you're at now and who it is that you're stepping into. Because as soon as you know who it is you're stepping into, you can already start stepping into them. Okay, if you know what the version of yourself that you want to become wears, don't say, I'm going to wear that in the future. That's my future me, because you're pedestalizing this future version of you. As soon as you pedestalize anything, you're never going to achieve that, because you think of it as like a great thing, an amazing thing that you will do in the future, but not something that you're actually going to become now. You want to think of everything as a now. Right? I already genuinely feel like I'm earning 250K a month. It's just like not materialized. And I really do feel like that. Sometimes in my journal when I'm writing, I accidentally start writing as if I've done it. And I have to be a bit like, fuck, I still need to keep taking these steps to get there. Because I just believe it so much, and I know 100% for a fact you guys will see me do that. 100% you will see me do that. There's no way that that will not happen. And that's because I act as that 2.0, right? I take the actions as that 2.0, like instantly, right? Even doing this mastermind, like, yeah, probably in the future I can do a much bigger mastermind, an even better mastermind. But what would the 2.0 version of myself do? He would host a mastermind. Okay, let's host a mastermind now, right? Or like, what would that version of me wear? Or how would he get up in the morning? How would he talk to other people? I don't know if any of you have seen me speak to even just people that are around at like cafes and stuff. I show energy, I show positivity. So if I'm earning 250K a month, am I gonna be like this everywhere? No, I'm gonna be thinking, I'm earning 250K a month, you know what I mean? I'm gonna be super happy with where I'm at. So I already start acting as that person. So journaling can massively help you with that. Next thing is outline what that person looks like. And a good tip with this is I would actually, and it sounds a bit weird, record voice notes for that 2.0. So record voice notes of any things that you're like debating. For example, there is trillions and trillions of dollars circulating the economy, trillions. The US prints so much money that they're thinking that inflation will become so big that there might be like cash basically issues within the world, because there's so much money being printed at the moment. There is so much money circulating in the economy, it's ridiculous. And I will create a voice note to remind myself of that, so that I can play that and actually remind myself how much is being printed, how much money there is out in the world. Because I want to remind myself of stuff that aligns me with this 2.0. Because does the 2.0 think that money is scarce? Do the 2.0 version of any of you think that money is scarce? No. But who now still has elements of feeling money is scarce? Yeah, 1.0, right? And obviously, when you're in reality, it's like abundance isn't necessarily always about being able to spend as much money as you want. That's not what abundance is. That's like a lifestyle where you're constantly trying to catch up. But abundance is like mentally in your mind, feeling free from these materialistic things that trap you. And you can do that in two ways. Like, yeah, you could do that by not wanting anything. But unless you condition your mind to not want anything, the only other way to do it is go get more and know you're going to get more and know you're going to have the opportunity to get more. So you feel abundant in the fact that, yes, you might not be able to get those things now, but you know where you're getting and you know what's going to be possible, and that you don't necessarily need those things now. You don't feel like you feel detached from those things now knowing who you're becoming and knowing that they're readily available for you in the future anyway, right? And it makes you have that feeling of detachment. I don't feel like I need a crazy watch or any stuff like that. Yeah, I could buy one if I wanted to. I could buy a fucking Audi if I wanted to, but I don't feel like I need that because I know in the future that car won't mean shit to me. That watch won't mean anything to me because I can be buying Patek Philippe's. I can be buying this other even crazier car. I can do this, and that. So I'm not even fussed about getting them right now because I feel abundant in the amount of money that I have, in the fact that I can do X, Y, Z, right? I hope that makes sense. But you want to outline that 1.0 and 2.0 version, and you want to like redo this every now and then. So if the original 2.0 does 10K a month and you hit 10K a month, well, do you want to, if you want to, and you don't have to, everyone has different things. If you want to keep doing more, don't just stay as that version. Because the version of you that does 10K a month, right, won't be the version of you that does 30. They just won't. However much you want to just use brute force and power to get to 30, you won't do consistent 30K months as the version of you that aimed for 10 with the same mindset. You have to reframe your mindset in order to do these bigger months, right? So with this, it's a constant evolution. It's a constant evolution from that 1.0 to the 2.0, and then you hit the 2.0, and then that becomes the 1.0 in a way. But really, you don't notice that because you're constantly doing it. So don't just think of that as a one-time thing. The third thing, and this is going to sound like controversial to what you probably normally hear, is actually express your goals. And like most people will tell you, like, quiet your goals. Don't tell them to anyone. Keep them to yourself. You want to express your goals. Yes, if you can, you want to express them to the right people and express them less to the wrong people, because obviously the wrong people are going to try and give you limiting beliefs on that. But by expressing your goals, you bring them into reality. Often, a lot of you here haven't necessarily told what you're going to do for your parents. And like, what's the only reason, let's say you're going to buy your mum a house, what's the only reason you wouldn't tell her you're going to buy a house? Yeah, self-doubt. Because what are you worried about? Yeah, not buying your mum a house. Saying to your mum, I'm going to buy your house, and not buying it. But as soon as you actually step into the version that says, Mum, this is the house I'm going to get you, this is the car I'm going to get you, this, that, you start expressing that as the goal, you start bringing it into reality. You actually have like a level of accountability to yourself based on the fact that you've now expressed that goal. It's now come into reality, and you actually have a level of standard you need to hold to do that, right? Before, the easiest thing to do is not say anything, keep it all to yourself, and then there's a lower standard you need to hold yourself at, because if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter, no one knows about it. So that's why you basically want to put your goals into reality, because when you say them out loud, it like actually puts the goal out there and it puts it in reality. Think about Conor McGregor. Like, Conor McGregor is the best person to look at this. He did that so much that he would even call out the shots that he was going to take. He would even say like, I'm going to knock this person out with this right hand. And then he would knock the person out with the right hand. And there's an element of accountability and pressure there from the fact that he's told that to millions and billions of people, that he's then got to go and knock that person out. And it holds himself to a way higher standard to do that. So I see a lot of you not doing this third one, especially you're willing to do these top two to keep it in your head, right? But you haven't necessarily come out to the point where you're doing this third one. And like, if you notice about me, I was so resistant to this third one. I'm gonna be real, like, I did not want to share any of my goals to anyone, not my brothers, not my sisters, not my friends, not my family. I was like really cautious about talking about money or talking about plans or talking about this. I didn't even used to tell them properly to my girlfriend, right? Like, and I really, really struggled with this third one. But as soon as I started like doing this third one more, I also came to that level of self-acceptance, because sometimes you feel nervous about telling your parents or the people around you how much you want to achieve. And that comes from what they'll think of you when you say that, how they'll judge you when you say that. Because sometimes when you tell them such big goals, you almost feel embarrassed that you're trying to achieve more than they did. You almost feel bad for the fact that you're trying to go out and do more. That's what I had anyway. Like, saying to my dad this massive goal almost felt like I was like over trying to like masculate him. Like, I don't know how you'd say that, but like trying to be like, oh, I'm this guy gonna go do this. And he would not like that, right, in a way. But now he's just become acceptance of that. I'm more accepting of that, and now we all have a way better relationship because of it, right? And it's the same thing with your girlfriend, with your friends, with anyone. When you start expressing that, what will happen is the people that really push back on that, you know you don't want them in your life. Why would you want someone that would push back so hard on your goal? Why would you want someone that doesn't just challenge you for the purpose of challenging you, helping you get better, but challenge you because they want to keep you where they're at? You don't want that person anyway. So what this also does is it filters out the people you don't want in your life anyway, right? And like when I mentioned about sacrifices before, the only sacrifices that you should make are the ones that you know have no positive impact anyway. You don't need to sacrifice stuff that you know is good for you. That's what I see a lot of people do, like relationships, time with family, this and that. But you do need to sacrifice some of the stuff that you know is bad for you anyway, right? We still following? I'm still going to explain how to do the 1.0 and 2.0. I'm just going to go into a little point first. So I'm going to ask one of you guys, Oren, like, what is it that you're looking to achieve, like in your life? Let's say even revenue wise. Let's do the third point, express. 100 million a month. I fucking love that. Okay, Mark. 10 to 15, which one? 10K. Okay, 10K. Julius? And let's say next year. Month? Okay, nice. Jan? Yeah. 100K. Nice. Sam? Yeah. 30? Yeah. Ricky? Yeah, I think that for me as well, 30K. 30. Sick. Harry? 10. Felix? 30. Matt? 10. 10? Okay, cool. So we got roughly between like 10 and 100, or and I'm guessing that like 100. Yeah, I didn't give you the time scale. I was going to say, like, with the best mindset, 100 mil a month might be hard to do this year. But like, okay, so let's say a lot of you got like 10 to 100K. What I want to say, let's say you're on 10K now, right? And your goal is to get to, I mean, some of you guys said like around 200, 250K. So let's say your goal is to get to 250K, right? You're going to have a load of milestones on the way. You're going to have the 30, you're going to have the 50, you're going to have the 100, you're going to have the 200. And this is something that I really struggled with at one point. And it was the thing that kind of stopped me from going to 100K to like the 40, 50 side of things. And like, if you don't do this, then you will just be stuck, right? And basically what it is when you have this milestone, let's say you want to get to even 30K, right? And right now you're on 5. You have 10K as a milestone. And what happens is 10K starts as a milestone. It starts as this thing like, oh, I'm going to hit 10K to get to 30. Like 10K is going to be a good sign that I'm on track to 30. And a good thing to do with milestones is set like a materialistic or like mental thing that you get when you achieve it. So let's say you hit 10K, you take your family on holiday. You hit 15, you buy this watch. You hit 30, you get yourself X, Y, Z, or you do X, Y, Z thing, right? And that's because it's a milestone, right? And you give a materialistic thing to that milestone. What I see a lot of people doing, and this is what I did, is I started putting those milestones as goals. And that is completely different. Because when you set out that 1.0 version of you and 2.0 version of you, it's so fucking important that you have the goal of that 2.0 as where you generally want to be. And if you have that goal as your 2.0 as the 250, if you get to the 100 and you start, if you get to like the 50 and you start thinking of 100 almost as the goal, what's going to happen is you're going to become the 100K a month version of yourself, not the 250K a month version of yourself. And it's really easy to slip into the point where you have these milestones and they take slightly longer to achieve, or they become slightly harder than you think. And over time, you then start putting that milestone as a goal because you settle for a lower standard of yourself. Who in here feels like sometimes that their goal now, they sometimes see themselves looking for a lower goal, a lower standard? Julius? Yeah, I do it sometimes. Pretty much every single person. I appreciate everyone for being honest as well. Like, because the easiest thing to do is do that. The easiest thing to do is have some harder months or some harder periods of time. And that initial like milestone, that initial 5K or 10K, then starts feeling like it would be really good. Like, oh, if I could do 5K, so if I could do 10K this month, I'm going to feel like this. And then over time, you start building up the mental framework of the version of yourself that does that. Yeah. And if you think about the fact that you've lined yourself up with this 2.0 version that achieves X, Y, Z, by actually going and changing your goal and lowering your goal, what are you doing to this future version? Felix. Yeah. Yeah, you're lowering one element. And what that does is then it allows you to lower all equal elements, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's literally exactly what you said. By lowering that one goal, the reason why this is dangerous is because it allows you to lower all goals. And like we said before, it's not about actually just hitting the 10, 50, 100K per month. It's about building that 2.0 version of the life that lives has every single possible thing in his life that he generally wants. Has like the wife, the cars, the time with family, the relationship with his children, like all of these things, right? And what that does is by saying, okay, I wanted to hit 30K per month, I'll just wipe off this bit. By saying I wanted to hit, let's say 50K per month, right? And then getting closer towards 15 and starting to feel like 15 is the goal, what you're also doing is if you believe that 50K is successful, and then you start to aim towards this 15K, and you start to set that as a goal, you're aiming for a goal that you deem unsuccessful. So every day in your life, you are operating as the version of yourself that is unsuccessful. And do you feel like that's going to put you on a high frequency or low frequency?
No, it's going to feel unsuccessful yourself.
Yeah, you're going to consistently feel unsuccessful, even if you're achieving more and more and more and more. You can achieve as much as you want if your goal is lower than what you actually had aligned and actually had set out with what you wanted to achieve. You're always going to feel unsuccessful. Because even if you're getting closer and closer to that goal, you're getting closer, and even when you achieve that goal, you're achieving a goal you don't even deem as successful. So how are you going to deem yourself as successful when you're like going for a goal that you don't even think has any element or level of success, right? And that's why when you're aiming for, let's say you're doing the 50 and you're aiming for this, when you hit the 10, you'll feel comfortable because your body will allow you to step into a position where comfort isn't actually true until you've hit everything you want. Comfort only comes really when you have all you want in life and you're going towards this life you want. You don't necessarily have to be earning 250 or 50K a month to be comfortable, but it comes from just operating as this 2.0 version of yourself. Other than that, are you really comfortable, or are you just operating, allowing yourself to hold yourself to a lower standard, right? If you're not generally living the life you want, are you comfortable, or are you just allowing yourself to hold yourself to a lower standard, right? It's really easy to think like, I'm not making a change because I'm comfortable. Would you genuinely say you're comfortable? If you look to your life, would you say you're 100% comfortable? Because most of the time it's no, but you're just looking for things to kind of make yourself believe you're comfortable, to allow yourself to just stay on the same wavelength, to not make a change, right? So this is super important. And the way that you can pick this up, the way that you can see whether your milestone is a goal, because you're going to have milestones. If you're going to get to 100K a month, you're not just like, you might just suddenly get there, but it's unlikely. So you're going to have milestones of the 10, the 20, the 50, the 75. But you need to just remember that they're milestones. And the way you want to do that is when you're like going towards those things, is if you're thinking of like, let's say 30K per month, in your mind, are you writing or journaling about that, or in any way pedestalizing that as the thing you want to achieve? And if you notice you're starting to overly pedestalize it as the thing you want to achieve, and you're starting to forget about the original goal, you're starting to journal less about the original goal, you're starting to think less about the original goal, then that shows that you're now operating to a lower standard. You're now settling for a lower goal. Any questions on that?
Like appreciating where you are as well. Obviously, I know you'd have to have a balance.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a really good question, Felix. And that is like the 2.0 version of you. Because like it's very easy to think like, oh, for me to be the 2.0, I have to hate my life now. But do you think the version of you that has achieved everything they want in life, do you think that they hate their life, or do they appreciate it? Yeah, of course they appreciate it, because they appreciate everything that they've done. So in terms of appreciation, it's not necessarily like holding yourself to like a lower standard and appreciating what you have for the sake of it. It's appreciating that where you are now, where you're going, who you're becoming, what sort of position you're in. You don't necessarily have to appreciate, oh, like I'm at a position where at least I have a comfortable job, at least I have this, and that. It's like you're then appreciating the materialistic. And it's never good to appreciate the outside. It's only good to appreciate stuff internally. Everything that you appreciate and you accept and stuff needs to be internal. Because if you accept anything materialistic, whether you're earning a lot of money or you're not earning a lot of money, let's say your appreciation comes from those external things, you could lose a lot of money. And then what, do you just not appreciate your life? Or if you're earning a low amount of money, if you appreciate that low amount of money, then you're holding on to that. And then it's going to be hard for you to earn a lot of money. So what you're trying to actually appreciate is the internal. Your mindset, you as a person, who you are, the way you're operating from. And that means you can have a level of appreciation in your life at any single point, while still aiming for bigger and bigger and bigger goals. And this, it sounds really crazy, but this also comes from like, yes, you want to appreciate the friends and the people you have around you, but in a different way. Like even friends, family and stuff, you don't want to appreciate on the same way that you have this appreciation for yourself. Because it's still, and it sounds bad, it's still an external factor, yeah? And you don't want any external factor to be where your level of appreciation for yourself comes from. Okay, cool. I won't go for too much longer. So yeah, Julius, what does the 2.0 version of you look like, for example? Elements of him. I know you probably got.
He doesn't pedestalize the goal, like he's not detached, like he doesn't see himself different from the goal.
Yeah, in what way? Yeah, yeah.
But it's just because some of them like they passed. Like I was just thinking, he was actually talking that, like why would I?
Yeah.
So it's more about just allowing himself to accept, okay, it's right here, and then aligning my.
Yeah, so that's a perfect example of how you can look at the 1.0 and 2.0, because he's saying like the goal feels over there, right? So instantly what you can think from that is, if the goal feels distant, as this example, and it's a really good like point to bring up, is what is it about your 1.0 version yourself that makes the goal feel distant? So the way that you look between the 1.0 and 2.0 version yourself is you first have a thought and then you break that thought down. So he's like, Julius has mentioned the goal feels distant. He feels like it's here and the goal's over here. But he knows that the goal's not that far. The goal's actually not that big of a thing. It's not like the goal is all the way over there on the other island. The goal's actually on this island and he can go and get it, right? Like it's available for him to go and get. So then you've got to think about, okay, like what is the mindset that the 2.0 version of himself has about this goal? Okay, the 2.0 version of himself has the goal like this. It's not so far away. It is super possible. Okay, and the 1.0 has the goal like that, right? He has it so the goal's really far away. And then you look at, okay, what is it about my beliefs? What is it about the current way of thinking that's making me feel like this? What is it about my beliefs of the future version of myself, of some elements of the version of me now, that makes the goal feel close? So now you have the beliefs, you have the thought process, that way of thinking that's maybe limiting you, that's the 1.0. You've broken that down, what that looks like. You now have realized where those beliefs, what those beliefs are that cause that. And then I like to take it a step further. You don't necessarily do that. Where's that come from? Like you can look in your life, look in your childhood, and look at where that's come from. For example, one thing with my 1.0 is I was really, really bad at sports. I was like really low grades in school. I basically kept failing. I had to move school at one point in a lot of areas. And that made me believe that, like, because my brothers were super good, my brothers were really good at sports. My brother Bertie was really like good in school. Like he used to do my maths papers when I was in primary school because I couldn't do them. And I didn't want to look like I was on a lower level. So I'd get Bertie, because he was like 2-3 levels above me, even though I was older than him, to do mine so I could actually look like to my friends. I wasn't like lower set maths, right? And what this made me feel like is I wasn't like valued enough to achieve this level of success, right? And the reason why I figured that out was because I had this resistance towards actually achieving a level of success, and had this huge resistance to telling anyone. Like when I was earning 10K a month, like yeah, I would tell Julius and stuff, but I wouldn't want to tell my family, I wouldn't want to tell my friends. I actually wanted to tell basically no one. And that's because of this resistance I had to the success. I didn't want to feel like the guy that was successful. I didn't want to speak about the fact that I was the guy that was successful because I wasn't used to being in that position. And I didn't want anyone around me to feel like I was better than them. Because that's one, not how I think anyway, but I didn't want them to even feel that. But then that's such a low lack of self-acceptance, because I wanted all the success, yet I'm not willing to do that. I didn't want my brother, my mom, or my dad to feel like I was above them, right? When that's not the way that it works. It's just different goals and different things that you're going to achieve, right? So, for example, I realized I didn't want to speak about my success, and I felt embarrassed by it when I was at home. Okay, and I thought, where does that come from? Okay, well, it's like I'm not actually accepting that I want to be successful and that I am achieving an element of success. Okay, and what beliefs does that come from? That comes from a lack of self-acceptance. That comes from like a lack of self-worth. Okay, where's this lack of self-worth? Where's this lack of self-acceptance come from in my life? It's come from this, and this. Okay, well, I can now, because I know it so well, move on from that, and I can actually look at what the 2.0 version of me thinks. Okay, he wants to be extremely successful, right? And he feels that success is worthy to him. He feels like he can achieve that level of success and he is worthy. Okay, why does he want to do that? Because he wants to do this for his family. He wants to achieve this, and feel like this. What beliefs does he hold? Okay, he feels he has huge self-worth. He believes that he is worthy of that success, right? He has self-confidence in the fact that he knows he can go and achieve that success, right? Where does that come from? That comes from me being in a position where every single day I'm making decisions out of decisiveness that I wouldn't usually take. I'm stepping into the version of me that, I don't know, for example, would host masterminds that I wouldn't usually do. That's a materialistic thing, right? But like, you then just break down what that looks like what are the actions, like why does that? Almost like you would with the old version of you, like what happened in school, this, and that. You kind of start making fake scenarios of that 2.0, like why he has built that level of success based on the actions you're gonna take or you are taking. Does that make sense? How could, for example, Ricky, how could you apply that to your life?
Like Julius said as well, not putting it like it's really far away.
Mm.
You know, that would tend to happen as well, that
Yeah.
kind of just like throws you off course because you're not acting like the person that's kind of earning 30K. Like there's something you said that was really helpful. Actually, that's like we had a chat once, and you were like, I mean, if you're doing all the things that are necessary, right, then it's only a matter of time. You're acting like a version of yourself that's already doing all of that. It's already a matter of time before you get there. So you should be calm because you're doing all the things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing else you can do. So I think like that really stuck with me. I was like, I mean, that's so right. I mean, if you already act, and I mean that person, you should just sit back. It's coming your way.
For sure, 100%. One thing I see is like, which is why I'm going into this, is like when you are aligning with that person, you can be very calm, you can be very relaxed because you know you're going to get there. But I see a lot of people not fully aligning with that person. And for me, it's a thing I have to do every day. If I don't work on it every day, if I don't journal every day, if I don't think about these things every single day, and I don't just like catch my mindset, even doing small things like doubting myself on taking a tiny action, I don't just continuously pick that up. I'll like start to act more in this way. And when I'm more in this way, that's when stuff like the anxiety creeps in, like the feeling of like maybe this isn't possible, all that stuff. Because I can have a bad month, but be like this, and I'll be fine. And the next month I'll go and do double what I did before. And now I don't really have that. I'm in a very stable position because I act as this. Because like, let's say you have the Ferrari, like, and this is something I've spoken about before. You have the Ferrari, right? The model of the car is the business model, fitness coaching, right? The steering wheel is the strategy that you go for. The fuel is the resources, the skills and the money and the time and everything that you have to put into it. I can give you the best Ferrari ever. I can literally park a Ferrari outside this villa that's ready to go around a Formula One racetrack. If you step in there as a granny or step in there as just a basic driver, you're not going to use it to its abilities. You're not going to use it and actually get it around the track as fast as it could go. And you could probably put Lewis Hamilton in my BMW and he would destroy you in the Ferrari because he is stepping in as the best possible driver he can be. So too many people are focusing on the Ferrari and not focusing on the driver. And if you step in as Lewis Hamilton, if you step in as the best possible driver, even if you don't have the perfect Ferrari, which pretty much all of you can get access to because there's so much information. If you're here, you have access to me, and a lot of you guys are trying to get to where I'm at now, which means I can give you basically every single step to get where I'm now. So you basically all have the Ferrari, right? So if that's the case, you just need to be focusing on being that Lewis Hamilton, being that driver that can send that Ferrari around the track. And that's why this is so important, right? All right, so now basically the key steps that I want you to do, and let's go get some food. So there's a few things I want you to do when you get back from this mastermind. Like, firstly, not 1.0. The first thing to do is write about the experience. And the reason why I want you to write about the experience in your journal is I want you to write about how you felt as a person, how you felt as an individual. Because being in this sort of setting is most likely going to make you feel slightly different about yourself. Most likely going to put you on a higher frequency. It's going to take you out of that 9 to 5 or like UK Nestle mindset. I know a lot of you guys aren't in that anyway, but like it's going to take you out of that closed mindset that you're doing the same thing every single day. So it's going to help you be like reflective, retrospective. Like it's going to help you look at who you are as a person. So I just want you to write your experience when you get back from this mastermind. Write about how you felt, like what you're thinking about, like what you wanted to talk about, the questions you wanted to ask, like anything that you were thinking through. Write that down because it's going to be a position where you're stepping out of your normality and you're stepping into something else, and that often gets you reflecting. Second thing I want you to do is, like I mentioned earlier, from now on every day is journal. And the main part of this that I want you to do is any belief that you have that is negative, I want you to challenge. And one way you can get and understand what beliefs you have that are negative is you write your goal. I don't just want you to do this in your journal, I'll show you what else I want you to do, is you write your goal, what you want to achieve, not just financial. You need to write your goals in all different areas, and then you write what you negatively associate with it. So you write your goal, you write what you negatively associate with it, and then you objection handle yourself on that. So you challenge yourself on that.
This is really good to do if you're like in a negative state, because then that's where the negative feeling kicks in, and then you can ask yourself, why do I even feel this feeling in the first place? And the first thing that's going to come up is some BS, but then that's where you can challenge it. Because I've tried to just sit down and write like what beliefs do I have around my goal, but if I'm just in like casual state, like, then it's going to be
true, really true. And Julius's point is so good there because it's the hardest to do this when you're in the negative state. Because when you're in negative state, your body just wants to step away from it. It just wants to hide it, right? it doesn't want to go near this. And I've said this to a few of you guys, like, how do you kill a lion without touching it? Right, I'm pretty sure I said this to you. You starve it, right? And a lot of people associate starving that lion, like let's say that lion's your 1.0 version of you, associate that lion, associate not feeding it with ignoring it. You ignore the lion, it's going to eat you. You're the one who's going to be fucking eaten, right? So it's about starving it, but being aware of it. Because if you're aware of it, you can fucking keep that lion back, right? And then it's also then about feeding the lion that actually does achieve the level of success. So feeding that 2.0 lions, like you've got these 2 lions either side of you, right? You don't want to be feeding that 1.0. You want to starve it until it dies. But you want to be feeding that 2.0 lion, like giving it all the things it needs to grow, be stronger, be bigger. But you want to be aware of that one, because if you're not aware of that one, it's going to come get you. Ignoring it is not the way. So when you're in the negative state, that is the best time. I massively agree with Julius to do this. Write your goal, what you want to achieve. Write what you associate negatively with it. Objection handle yourself on it. Where's this negativity come from? Why do I feel this negativity? What is it that's caused this negativity? What is this genuinely true within my life? And is this something that I find negative that actually goes against my goal? Like, does this actually impact my goal? And is this negativity coming from the fact that maybe this goal actually isn't aligned with where I want to go? Because then you can change goals, and it might be that that's true, right? Rarely is, but it might be that's true. But what you're going to do is you're going to get to the bottom of this, and what that's going to do is it's not going to be comfortable doing this. It's going to feel, what you tend to find when you do this isn't necessarily you feel super uncomfortable. You tend to be bored. You tend to be like, oh, like, I don't really want to do this. Like, it tends to kind of be boring. The reason why you find it boring is because your brain's just trying to find a reason for you to not do it, because you don't actually find it boring. Like, discovering and actually getting to the bottom of it isn't boring, but you will think of it as a waste of time. Boring, not important, not the top of priorities, right? But having this negativity will completely change the priorities you have, completely change the actions that you take. So it is the top priority. And if you look at anyone that's doing super well in the space, 500K, $1 million a month, right? All of them talk about their mindset as being the #1 highest leverage task. Even look at Cameron England, for example. He's doing 500K a month. Like, I literally saw a story of him the other day, and he time blocks. He literally looks at how he uses his time for every half an hour of the day. And he said, I've realized that the most productive use of my time is looking at the way that I'm thinking, my mentality, the way that I'm operating out of, because that has the highest leverage in terms of the actions I then take. And it means all the actions I take have the largest impact on my life. So I want you to do this, put your goal, what's negative, rejection handle yourself. Go through that negativity. Next thing I want you to do, this is a much nicer thing to do, is 2 things within the journaling. Is 1, just write about your goal. Write about how excited you are to achieve it. Write about like what position that's going to put you, your family, and the people around you in. Get excited about that goal. Write about it, be detailed about it. Like, talk about, like, to yourself in the journal, what you're going to do. Like, how is your house going to look? How's your office going to look? What car are you going to have parked up? How's your wife going to come in when, like, you're providing this, and that? Like, be excited about the goal, be detailed about it. And then the other one is just write your experiences. And the reason why you want to write your experiences is you can look back on your journal at any point. And if you've experienced something, your journal becomes kind of like this logbook of lessons. And when you like write about experience, even being at the mastermind, for example, being at this mastermind, it was so cool, this, and that. It will just, like, when you have these good or negative experiences, it will log them. And when you write them in your journal, it will, like, log it into your mind, right? It will just help you remember them and, like, have an element of attachment to them so that you can move on from the negative and you can move into the positive. Yeah? So next thing is journal. Third thing is I want you to do the 1.0 and the 2.0. If you're here, you've probably already done this, but what I want you to do is after this is go back and do this again, or go back and look at this again. And the reason why I want you to do that is because I want you to read this daily, right? Because how many of you here read that daily? No. And if you don't do everything, I mean, what's something you do every day? Brush your teeth, right? Do you ever have doubt about brushing your teeth? No. You never think, oh, am I going to brush my teeth this morning, man? It's going to be a hard brush, right? No, you don't think that because you're doing it every single day. You have ultimate confidence in it because it's just been this consistent within your life. So by doing this and reading this version of yourself every day, it becomes another consistent. So it then becomes way easier to be that version of yourself. It just becomes this thing that you don't have doubt over. You don't have this fear over because you're so aligned with it. And yeah, if you do these 3 things, basically, the only other thing you could do is meditate. I don't really meditate much, I'm going to be real. I'm one of those guys that doesn't do that because I find these 2 enough. these two are like my meditation. Actually doing the journaling and reading the 1.0 and 2.0 version of myself, it kind of acts as this level of meditation for me. Like the journaling is kind of this version of meditation. But if you find yourself like your thoughts are going everywhere and stuff at times, or you can't sit and work for, let's say, 2 hours straight, you can't sit down and work for 2 hours, then you've got some serious fucking issues and you need to start meditating. Because like, even when it comes to sitting down and working, that is one, how important the goal is for you, but that is two, it just takes time. Like, if you allow yourself to move loads when you're working, then get up and do loads of stuff, your body's gonna get conditioned to that. If you force yourself to go through that discomfort where you feel like you wanna get up, but you don't, your body will get used to that and it'll start adapting to that. It will be uncomfortable, you start doing that. But at the beginning, meditation's a really easy way to like allow yourself to do longer work blocks, because you meditate for 10 minutes, but it actually allows you to get 2 hours of deep focus done instead of a 45-minute deep focus session. So then in the end, you actually get way more done in total, right? But meditation, I think it is important for mindset, but in my opinion, these two are way more important, because I tend to find that meditation just clears my head, but I also find that these two don't just clear my head, but they get my thoughts out there and they get my like mental structure straight. Instead of just clear, like I feel like with direction. Any questions on this? No? I want an action step from every single person. I'm gonna go around the room of what everyone's gonna do. Start meditating. Okay, good. Yeah, and I also find that you try and find external things to help improve your work, which you wanna look for more internal things to improve your work. Yeah, you're happy with the external. That's why you need it, because you're happy with it. Owen?
I think definitely going back and looking again at Mindset 2.0, like every day will be sometimes it's small still there.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah, that's really important as well, because what happens is you start to become super focused on one element. For example, when I was building the business at one point, I started to go to the gym less to put more time on the business, but that wasn't aligned with the version of myself that I was actually wanting to become. So then I was settling for a lower standard in one area of my life. So then it kind of allowed me to settle for low standards in other areas. Where like I knew the version of myself that achieved this level of success trained some form of way every single day, even if it was only 15 minutes, even if it was half an hour on a run. So then like I had to align back again with that. Like you saw me yesterday between a sales call, and literally between closing a 1K deal and a 3K deal, I got a quick workout in. I was like just doing the crazy like back pump, and then I went and did the other deal, because like I know the version of myself does a workout or some sort of form of exercise every day. But good stuff, nice one. Mark?
I think inconsistent journey massively. Challenging the beliefs as well. But also doing 1.0, 2.0 again would be amazing, because I can look back at that and look at the new version.
For sure.
How I move forward from the belief system there. That was a difference.
Yeah, for sure. And then challenging yourself on what you're not. I think that's super important. Nice, I like that. Jan? Yeah.
And then if you have a car and you go out and you're just fat, then it's not nice.
Yeah.
You look at it like, hey, I have these things, but who is the person having these things?
Yeah.
Like, internally as well. Am I wise? Am I smart?
Yeah.
Am I making money?
That's a sick way of thinking. I like that a lot. Yeah. Like, because it's so easy to put it on the materialistic, but when you have the materialistic, who are you with it? Right? It's like the corporate guy. Who in here looks up to the corporate guy that's earning $1 million a year, let's say, but is fat and is in the office all the time, and his wife's complaining about how much time he spends with the kids and stuff. But he's earning $1 million a month. He's earning $1 million a year. You still look up to him or not? No, there's no standard of life, right? Like however much, okay, if he earns 100 mil, do you look up to him? No? Would you switch places with him? I definitely wouldn't. For 100 mil to get back to my wife, like overweight, to not see my kids, to not be able to, I don't know, I want to get one of those backpack things when the kid's like really young, and go out on those massive hikes with the kid in the backpack, right? Like to never be able to do random stuff like that. Like even though they're earning the level of income you want, would you trade that with them? No. So then it means that you, like Jan said, need to be also focusing on the person that you are when you achieve all these things, not just achieving all these things. Sam, one thing you take away?
I think journaling for me was important. Quite a lot, like over time, trace.
For sure. Yeah, that's sick. I see that a lot with you, because also you're like making progress really quickly. The version of you that you're going to want to become is going to continuously extend. And you need to keep up with that. Otherwise, you'll have loads of self-doubt and creeping thoughts come in because you're achieving a lot of success you're not used to. So you need to normalize it so that you can keep going up whilst also keeping the rest of your life normal. For example, you're in a relationship, you have like a family, you want to do all this, well, you're in a family, I don't mean you have a family, but like you want to do all this stuff with your mum and like your girlfriend and stuff. If you don't normalize that level of success, right, what's going to happen is you're going to feel like you should always be catching up. You should always be working more because you feel like that's what's required. That's what, almost like you're not deserving for it. So I need to do more and more and more and more. This is what I should do. I shouldn't be spending time doing this, this and that because like this is a crazy level of success. Like I need to maintain it. Where you want to be in a growth way, normalize it. Know that you can still spend that time. You can still, if anything, spend more time because now you have this success and that you're still going to go super far. And not necessarily stay in the mindset that more work equals more success. And like I'm going to see that big development in you. I'm already seeing it a bit, which is cool. Ricky?
I think also we need the one more daily that good. I mean, that journal right now is well of myself, but I think having that like clear vision of what you want to instill, like constantly looking through every single day, you stay sharp on it.
For sure. I saw a massive difference in you when you started journaling as well. It was crazy. Like your whole mind just started changing. You became way less attached to the outcome. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, it's, I guess, multiple things, right? Even when you're hopping on like calls with people, the whole point is to kind of like be a leader, right? And you can't really be a leader if you're not a leader in your own life. You know, so I guess that was the first step for me, like hop on a call, try to lead someone to actually make good decisions, take action if I'm not in that position too.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, okay, bro, like wake the fuck up. That was the first one.
Yeah, that's
And
sick.
then the second one is to kind of, okay, like why is it that I'm attached? And just objection handling. Okay, like where does it actually come from deep down? And then tackling that instead of just, you know, letting kind of the symptoms impact my like development.
Yeah, for sure. Because your skills kept getting better, but nothing was really changing that much because you still had that high level of attachment. And what happens is if your mindset's not in the right place, you can develop a really high level of skill, but you can't use those skills correctly, right? Like all of you guys in here are super fucking talented. But like if you allow your mindset to not use that talent in the right way, you won't use it. An example of this as well is like if you go back, let's say 3 years ago for me, I met this guy called Jeffrey Guy, right? And he really changed my mind a lot. He hardly spoke to me about much, but I basically just met someone in person for the first time that had a net worth of 500 million. And I didn't know when I met him. And then someone said, do you know who you just spoke to? And I searched him up and I was like, oh, fucking hell. Like this guy's come from nothing. This is possible. I've shaken hands with this person. Like this is possible. I wasn't in the right mentality to take much action on it, but I remember I asked him stuff and I like thought I was creating an opportunity for myself because I was trying to be be someone open to opportunities, right? And I like had a bit of contact with him and he was showing me about this crypto stuff, about all these different things. But then what happened is I allowed these beliefs within my family of like, this is too good to be true. Like this stuff isn't actually gonna happen because of X, Y, Z. And a lot of the crypto projects that he showed me 3 years ago, in terms of AI development, he showed me projects about like these bots that were starting to learn the program so well that they were able to actually hack the program in a way and take actions outside of the original programming because they would just develop so much, is now a huge reality within the AI space, right? If I had tapped into that 3 years ago and I'd seen that opportunity for what it is, I would have been in a completely different position, like even to now. And it's not necessarily that I didn't have the skills, because I could have developed those skills, just like I had to develop the skills to be here. It's I didn't see the opportunity for what it truly was, because I had all these fears of failure, fears of X, Y, Z, these self-doubts that stopped me from taking that opportunity for its face value and using it to the way that I actually could, right? So it's so important, like all these skills and everything that you have, you can't use. Matt is an insane videographer. What stops you from doing it for all the highest level people out there in the world all the time, right? Because you clearly have the skills, because we've seen your videos with the cars and everything like that. They're insane. It's like, what stops you from doing that with all these crazy car companies everywhere, with the people that you want to work with consistently, with the cars that you want to be with all the time consistently, right? Nothing, right? And you have the skills there, so it's most likely just the mental framework you're operating from that's stopping you from fully going and doing that. And I'm not saying you're going to instantly switch your mental framework, right? And I'm not saying even when you do switch it, you're going to instantly be working with all these people. But what you can guarantee is if you know where you want to go and you operate as that person, you will align over time with them. You might have a little bit of down, but you will eventually go back up, right? But yeah, nice one, Ricky, I like that. Harry?
Mine's definitely doing the one.
Yeah.
My biggest issue is self-doubt.
Mm.
It's like I find my self-doubt will take over. It's like even now, I probably spent the last 5 minutes when everyone's talking. And I do say that, like if I turn around and say the wrong thing, and then it takes over, the nerves come out. I pride myself on being constant.
Mm.
When that self-doubt creeps in, I'm not paying attention. Like the confidence vanishes, and then it's nerves coming in.
For sure.
So like doing that 1.0 to 2.0 will sort of say this is where you are, this is where you are. There's no way.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, and I see that with you I appreciate you sharing that as well. I mean, you can even see your body language right now. It's very closed off because it's like when you're in this position, when you're taking an action that you don't want to, that doesn't align with yourself, you normally close yourself off. Like the way you are now is very like this. Before you've been like a bit more relaxed at times. And like I see with you, when you don't take action, like you see it as laziness a lot of the time, and it can be, right? But then whenever I've seen you not taking action, I think a large portion of that time has come from you having self-doubt on that action and how far it's going to get you. Because who wants to take unlimited action, attack something that they don't even feel like they're going to actually achieve anything from it? You don't want to get up in the morning to create videos or script this or like do that or hop on a call with a client if you don't feel like you're going to be successful and achieve the level of success you want from it. It's not very motivating. If someone said, oh, you're going to absolutely attack the gym 5 days a week, but you're never going to get results, right? You're not going to be like, yeah, let me get in there now. Like, you're just not going to be like that. So if this self-doubt that creeps in makes the work feel pointless. So you need to challenge that to make the work be more enjoyable, which is why you see people like me, for example, that are working and they fucking love it. Like Ricky's been on calls with me and I'm just hyped up. Like I just love the work. And that's because like I know that it's 100% it is getting me where I want to go, right? And I can see that like materialize in my life as well. But yeah, that's a good one. Felix?
I'm definitely going to start journaling
Mm.
like on the triangle of the dream, because I do catch myself doing throughout the day, but I don't ever really take the time to understand why I'm actually doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And you've had some pretty hard stuff go on in your life, like, right? So I think a really important thing is to look at that and look at what frequencies you're still pulling in from that and allow yourself to move on from that. Or allow yourself to just be accepting of it. You don't even have to move on from it. You just have to accept it. But until you've like really dug deep with the journaling, then you won't move on from it. One thing you'll probably notice is when you set a goal, it's not really much space, but you have this goal. Let's say you're here. You set this goal of, let's say I need 250K a month. You have this huge excitement point. And then you have this old mentality 1.0 reality kick in. This is what happened for me. And then you want to try and get back to that, like, not like that, more like I mentioned earlier, more where it goes like this, where you're not as much up and down. When I set the goal of doing 250K a month, I was so fucking excited. In France, I was like, yes. Like I was writing down what I'm gonna do from it. I was going on walks, listening to like really low level music and just thinking it all through, getting back and journaling about it, because I had no Wi-Fi, so I was just processing all these things. And then a few days went by, and I was like writing in my journal, and I was feeling kind of nervous, if I'm being real, like because it just felt like this big burden. And then I had to objection handle myself on why I was feeling it like a burden and no longer excited about it, because I'd like really set it in stone at this point. I told my younger cousin, right? I told a load of people, I started speaking about it. And this thing that felt like this fun thing now became like this huge, like this big thing that I want to achieve. And now it feels normalized. It just feels standard. So it's just reality now at the end of the day. And yeah, you'll have the same thing with that, basically. I like it. Matt?
First, just even do.
Yeah.
I haven't done any of that, so it'll do that and then start journaling because, like, as you said, like as you've been able to set like the goal, who I want to be, actually knowing exactly where I want to go, to actually put myself on that path. Whereas at the moment, I'm just like, cool, I'll do more of this. This is fun.
Yeah.
But it's kind of going.
I'll send you the document if you want for the 1.0, 2.0. It
Yeah,
outlines
yeah,
it really clearly. I'll do a little CTA for anyone watching this as well. If you want the 1.0, 2.0 document, then if you comment 1.0, 2.0, I don't know, something around those lines, then I'll send it over to you. And it basically outlines how you do it. It gives you the questions on how you're actually going to go about and answer them to figure that out. And what it will do is it will support you in terms of figuring out the difference within your mindset, so that instead of you just going there just thinking 1.0, 2.0 and trying to write everything down, it will just like structure everything out. So it feels really easy for you to understand that 1 point and understand that 2 point, and it's something you can come back and reference every single day. So yeah, if you want that, message me mindset or 1.0, 2.0 on Instagram and I'll send it over to you.